Each and every person has mental health. Mental health refers to our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Mental health is more than just the absence of illness, it's a positive sense of psychological and emotional well-being. In the same way that we all have mental health, we all have the potential to experience mental illness. To explain this a little better, we can think of each person as having a mental illness vulnerability tube. Our tube is our ability to cope and manage. The more full this tube becomes, the harder it is to cope and manage. And when the tube becomes full, we can no longer cope with any more stuff being put into the tube, and we're more likely to experience an episode of mental illness. So, what goes into the tube? The tube can be filled by two things: genetic factors, represented by the yellow squares, and environmental factors, represented by the white stars. Genetic factors are our genes. We all start out with a certain amount of genetic vulnerability. Some people, through no fault of their own, will be genetically more vulnerable to developing a mental illness, so their tubes will start more full than other people's. Regardless of how full your tube is to begin with, over time, our tubes begin to fill based on the environmental factors that you're exposed to or that you experience. Environmental factors are external influences that can affect our health and well-being. In this instance, factors tend to be stressful or upsetting, and they include experiences such as being bullied, feeling lonely, being assaulted, or misusing substances. The more stressful environmental factors we experience, the more our tube fills up. Fortunately, we're not stuck with our tube being a single size. We can build our tubes and make them bigger so that they can contain more stuff, and so that we can cope with and deal with more stuff. The way we build our tubes and make their capacity bigger is by way of protective factors. Protective factors are things that help people deal more effectively with stressful events and reduce the risk of our tubes becoming full and us being unable to cope. Protective factors include things such as getting enough sleep, eating well, being hydrated, engaging in physical activity and exercise, having social connections, so having friends and feeling like we belong, engaging in hobbies and leisure activities. Each protective factor extends the tube, making it taller. And you can see that the more protective factors you have, the taller the tube becomes and the more it can accommodate environmental stuff, and the better you will cope.